That's exactly what it's like.
I don't like it.
Hi, you guys. Well, hi. Welcome to the Miles with Moms podcast, a podcast for moms chasing goals through all seasons of life. I'm Olivia.
I'm Shanna.
And we have a guest today. We've got
Nicole. Hi.
Perfect. You're good. Bringing you training tips, mom and expert interviews, and the kind of best friend banter that makes you feel like you're on a run with us. Whether it's your first 5K, your next marathon, or a stroller tempo, we've got your miles and your sanity. We do appreciate if you can rate, subscribe, and share our podcast with another fellow mama. Shanna, do you have a shout out for us?
I do. It's a short one. Somebody submitted their friend. Her name is Heather. This is her handle on Instagram. It's Heather R.O. Frisk. So I think it's Heather Roth Frisk, but I may be saying that wrong. Anyways, her friend said she's almost 4 months postpartum and started speed work, signed up for a half marathon, is training for a half marathon currently. So super cool. Congratulations, Heather. That's super exciting. 4 months postpartum. I feel like that's where you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel of like healing. Things are starting to get into routine. You're trying to figure out babies' sleep and food situation. And yeah.
It's so true. Also, though, sometimes sleep regression. So that's badass if you're starting speed work during a sleep regression.
Oh,
so yeah, both of mine did the 4 month one.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Is there such thing as like a 6-year sleep regression? Because I think I'm still in a sleep regression. I don't think I ever left the sleep regression, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I don't know. I have 2 little wanderers, so
yeah.
I've had a kid in my bed for 10 years. Like one, it just changes which one it is.
Exactly. We finally committed to the king size bed last year, I think, or maybe it was a year and a half ago.
Been key.
And oh my gosh, like I told my husband, I was like, why we don't need a king size bed. It's too big. And he's like, no, we need a king size bed. We have like 6 kids. And oh my gosh, now we have like, I think it's like an invitation for them to be like, oh, they have a king size bed. So 4 of us can fit in between them.
Like, that is so funny. Oh my gosh. We have a king size bed, but we still only put 3 of us, and then my husband's on the couch. Poor guy.
We've had seasons of that. Yeah, they've switched bed. My husband took my son's bed. My son was here, and it was just like 2 years of that.
Yeah. Honestly, can I kick myself out on the couch? Like, I actually would be okay with that.
That would be okay.
I probably had the best sleep ever if I slept in like a guest room or a bed that did have kids.
I always would volunteer. I totally volunteer. But Charlotte's thing is to sleep by me. We have actually been Charlotte and I out on the couch for no reason. And that's just the worst. Like a 3-year-old sleeping on a couch. It's like it's just an invitation for them to get up all the time. And is it morning yet?
Or your back to hurt.
Exactly.
Well, how is everybody's weekend going? I mean, Nicole, you mentioned some weather going on over there. You're in Texas.
Yeah, we have our nice little ice storm last night, so the kids are having fun just bouncing around in the ice on the trampoline today. No real snow, but everything's canceled, so we're all home for 3 days.
Yeah.
However long.
Do you know when they'll go back to school, or is it kind of just like day by day?
I'm assuming Tuesday, but I mean, the snow is melting. It says it's 26 degrees out, which that doesn't make sense, but it's melting. So it's odd. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. But they're playing games happily right now. So for now, it's okay. At 5 p.m., I will regret ever saying that. But
yeah.
That's so funny. That's good. It's good for our listeners to hear that we have relatable weather people on here. For us, we have decent winters here. So I mean, beyond decent. So we pay for it in the summer, but I mean, a lot of places do. So again,
we're used to 100 degrees. You guys get even hotter than us. So but I would take the heat over the cold, though. That's why I live here. I like the warm.
We're the same. We were just talking about that the other day. We were at the park yesterday because both of us were kind of solo parenting our kids with our husbands at work. And we go to the park, we're like, we're so cold. And
Oh
it's
yeah,
like,
I don't like
it's
it.
probably like 45 degrees. Like, it's not cold,
Exactly.
you guys. Like, it's
Yeah.
cold if you're like not in the sun, but that was it. And like the wind was a little bitter, but it's not like
Yeah.
-15 degrees like most of the rest of the
Oh yeah,
country.
I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
So we were just laughing the whole time. We are like, wow, we're meant to live here. Like,
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
so true. Oh my gosh. And we were the ones who were cold. Our kids totally fine. Like
totally
mine
fine.
are trying to undress like nonstop, and they run so warm. It's just so crazy. But I will say Shanna did run a half marathon, and when you get inside
I
from the
saw that. Yeah.
yeah, and when you're cold all day, I felt that for her.
Yeah.
Like watching her, I'd just be freezing right now.
The
Yeah.
pictures didn't look like it was that cold because I was like, oh, that looks pretty nice. That's not too bad.
Yeah. I think that morning was like 35 as the low. So it wasn't too bad. I mean,
That's
I
good
get
for a race. Yeah.
yeah, I get hot when I run. So I can run in like a sports bra in 30 degrees and be
Yeah.
fine. It's like when I stop and I'm like standing
Yes.
idle that I'm like, oh my gosh, it's cold.
I get that.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man.
I always have that like post-race chilliness. That was how I knew Chicago was really warm because they were handing
Yeah.
out bags of ice, and like all I want when I'm done running is something hot to drink. And even I took a bag of ice and I don't like it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could tell that it was just like a warmer day, but yeah, because I'm always free. Well, even after any kind of run, I'm just frozen every time.
Yeah.
That's just
I feel like that was, I don't know, I equated to childbirth a little bit. Like I got really shaky
true.
after birth, and I feel like I get the same thing after a marathon. Like my body
That's
just
yeah.
is in
true.
shock and I'm cold. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's so true. It's like an endorphin, or I'm assuming some kind of like endorphin
Yeah.
hormone that happens.
Nervous system just takes a shot and you're just out of whack
Yeah.
for a little bit. I don't know.
It's almost like your body's like giving the okay to be like, we're done with that block. It's
That's
over.
true.
We're gonna like decompose and fall apart for a few weeks.
And then they push you through the line. Like, no, you can't stop. You have to go take a picture and get your
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
You
you're
have
like,
no empathy on that. Like
No.
you cross that finish line, they're like, go, go, go. Like battle.
the race is not over.
Yeah. At CIM, I feel like someone was like physically separating my friend and I from each other while we were just trying to hug for a second. They were like, "You got to keep going." We literally just finished this distance. Yeah, but yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
just-
true.
Just no empathy for that at all.
No.
Well, Nicole, I'll go into reading your bio here.
Okay.
Got it pulled up. Okay. Nicole is a runner, coach, and mom of 3 based in Texas Hill countryside outside of San Antonio. Originally from Oklahoma and proudly Cherokee, she's been married to her college sweetheart for 13 years and is raising a neurodivergent family with grit, humor, and a whole lot of heart. A former special education teacher and a longtime stay-at-home mom, Nicole rediscovered competitive running after years of serious postpartum health challenges and multiple surgeries. Since returning to the sport, she's qualified for the Boston Marathon, coached herself through major PRs, and founded Restoration Run, where she blends running, nutrition, and mental health advocacy. At her core, Nicole believes in hard work, self-belief, and one simple message: just keep going because you're capable of more than you think. That's awesome. That's amazing. I'm so excited to dive into all of these questions that we've got here.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many layers to who you are. Like when you sent over your bio, I like was reading.
Well, I
through it.
just like to talk, so I'm like, let's give him the
I
whole
love
thing.
that. You know what?
Yeah.
Those are our best interviews. Are the ones the people that like to talk because we want to hear less of us. We want to hear a lot of you. So
Well, maybe I like to write more than I talk. I'll try to convey the same the same thing.
yes, bring that extrovert side of you out. But you did talk about living in a lot of places. You wore many hats. You have a military spouse, teacher, a special ed teacher is what I read. Stay-at-home mom, business owner, which is what you mentioned to us. Runner, a competitive runner too. So in this season of life, like what kind of would like how would you define yourself currently, right now in this season of life?
Yeah, I've worn a lot of hats. I feel like I've lived like 10 different lives, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of us feel like that. I feel like this year and this moment is just me really feeling like I'm trying to be the authentic me. really getting back to the core of who I always have been, but have lost pieces in earlier motherhood and in just different seasons where you can't do all the things you want to do or, for whatever reason. I just feel like I've been coming back to the core of who I am. And I've told my husband this a few times. Like, I feel like some of it is trying to tap into almost high school me, like a
Yeah.
part of me that really is just I'm just a kid in the inside. Like, I don't know, and I just am trying to find joy in it all again, and it's awesome. Something that I do think I lost a little bit of just when you're in the grit and the just daily chores of early motherhood and changing diapers and all that, and I've gotten out of that and just in this place where I can chase some of my dreams and do it alongside doing all of this at home too. So, yeah.
Giving our audience, I guess, a little bit of a background of your kids' age frame. So you said you're out of the diaper phase and things like
Mhm.
that, which I applaud you. You
You're
deserve
about to enter it
this.
again,
You
so
deserve this season. I know we're crazy. That's why.
that's
um,
awesome.
but no, I think it's just such a different phase to like get to that point and be like, wow, my
Yeah.
youngest is wait, how old? When you're so used to saying 2, 1, 18
Oh,
months,
yeah.
and so what's your oldest and then what's your youngest? How many kids? And yeah, like what does this season kind of look like with your kids currently? Because I think a lot of times when people hear you're out of the baby phase, they're like, oh, you're so lucky. And it's
Oh, yeah.
like, there's also a lot of, we were talking before we got on recording, there's a lot of pros and cons to every season or a lot of highs and lows with every season. And you're definitely still in a very busy season of life, even though
Oh,
things are
yeah.
kind of shifted.
Yeah, it's just different. I have a 11-year-old, almost 12, 9-year-old, almost 10, so let's say 12, 10, and 8. So my youngest is 8, which is crazy. I feel like, yeah, she's always been my baby, but she's 8, so it's a big deal. They all have their own personality and will tell it to me every second of every day. So I feel like it's no longer the chaos of the little kids, but there's just a new chaos. It's just different. But it's fun to get to see who they're becoming, and then getting to show them some of the things that I love and kind of relate to them on, hey, I did this when I was younger and I'm getting back into this now and trying to teach them, now that we can talk more, what I'm really chasing and what my goals are and letting them see that. Although they can't be at all the races, it's very hard to get those worlds to connect all the time, just physically getting them there. With 6 a.m., they're like, no, we'd rather sleep in. They tell me that. They're like, don't bring us. We don't want to. They don't really care, but they'll celebrate and they'll send me little text messages that are sweet. So yeah, it's different, but it's been good in a lot of ways, and it's challenging. I mean, I my oldest is currently home. We had to pull him out of school this year, so we have a whole new challenge with trying to figure out what life looks like and what school looks like for him. Um, Two of them are still in school, so we're juggling a lot, and we live about 40 minutes from school, so like we have a big drive every day that we make to and from because we really believe in this private school that we love and we value their education in that. But it's a lot. It's a lot of driving and it's a lot of different hats all day long for my husband and I. So yeah.
I love that. So take us back a little bit. So you even talked about that you can explain to your kids like what you used to do and how it's shaping into what you're doing now. But when you talk about high school you, what does that look like?
High school me was a competitive soccer player for I don't know, I tried to do the math earlier, 15 years. It makes me feel old when I do all the math. But yeah, so I've loved to run my whole life, but I mostly just ran in soccer. That
Mhm.
was my sport. Grew up there, did all like my school revolved around that. So when I think back on experiences I had, I realized, I mostly was living a very sheltered little soccer life and sports, and my family went to all of our summers and all of our weekends were going to games and going to tournaments and traveling for that. So my memories are of that kind of season.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to figure out where. what else I was gonna say there? But yeah, I went to, I was gonna keep playing. I was gonna keep playing in college, and then I kinda got burnt out with some of that. Uh, but the running I never got burnt out of. It was just the soccer itself was a whole lot, playing competitive, and I did an
Mhm.
Olympic development team for a little bit, which was really cool. And looking back, I'm like, man, I wonder what would have happened if I would have stuck with that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, but it wasn't, everything's meant to happen the way it did, and I'm super happy about how it all
Mhm.
worked out.
Yeah, I love that. Do you ever go play soccer now, or do any of your kids play soccer?
I've tried to get them all to play. They all had we have a rule, like, where you try it once, but I'm not gonna
Uh-huh.
make you continue if you hate it. So, they
Yeah.
haven't found anything they love yet. We've tried a lot of things once.
Mhm.
Soccer that was the same, and that's fine. Like, I don't have any, like, "Oh, soccer's the best sport ever." Like, I loved it, but I
Yeah.
I have no desire that they become anything that I do. Like, I just want them to chase whatever they love.
Mhm.
I know a lot of parents, like, if they sign up, you, like, make them stay with it, but I let them quit sometimes when their heart's not in it, so I'm a little different in that. But no, none of them really like soccer, so
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
I
I'm
did get them to do a 5K last year, though, so hey, they all
Oh,
did
you
that one.
did? Oh, that's cool.
Yes. Well, except for
Yeah.
the youngest, she's done the 1 mile. She hasn't done a 5K
Oh,
yet.
cool. Yeah, that's so neat.
I'm curious when you entered the running scene because you played soccer competitively, which it's so funny. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that get into running and they're former soccer players, and I'm like,
Yes.
I've
that's
seen
why
that a
you're
lot.
fast. That is why you're fast. You have this competitive drive that came from another sport, but yeah, I'm curious, like, when did you get into, like, actually, like, the running, like, races and things like that, and, like, what sparked that interest, and then kind of what that journey has looked like from starting to where you're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, in soccer, I really always loved to run. I would stay after practice. I was I'm sure people on my team didn't like that I said, "Oh, let me just stay and run." Like, I was a little bit obnoxious with that, but I just liked it. So I would do that on top of the sport itself. And I did a few races growing up, but never in the same like mindset that I'm doing them now. I just showed up to run. I didn't have a watch. I didn't have anything. Like, it was whatever. And I remember watching my mom was a runner. She would always say she doesn't do anything as competitively as I'm doing, but she did run when I was a kid, and I would go to her races and watch her do like 9 mile. They called it the Tulsa Run, which I think it was a very weird distance. It was like 9.25. I don't know. It was an interesting race, but I remember watching her running and thinking this is really cool. Um, and so when I got out of soccer and was in college, I would just run on my own, run the treadmill before classes. I did a few races on campus, but I was never really in this competitive running scene. I just really liked to run, and I would do it when it worked for me, and it was just kind of my decompression, if you will. So,
I love that. You met your husband in college. Was he into sports? Was he into running? Is that something that drew you 2 together?
no. Uh, he just sat by me in history class one day, and I was like, "Who is this guy? Like, please give me space. Like, I do not like this." So, and then he just followed me around for a couple years until I gave him attention. So I mean, that was basically that. But no,
Mhm.
he loved working out, and he was joining the military, so he was doing a lot of PT workouts, and part of our dating, like, I would do all the workouts that he was doing, I would just do them on my own. So if he was doing a PT test, I was taking the PT test on the treadmill at the same time. And
Oh,
I did
yeah.
beat all the women's times that no one ever knew, though. I was just doing it on my own. But I found that really fun. I was like, I could do this, but I don't want to be in the military. So I'll just play. I'll just do this for fun. But yeah, so we enjoyed doing a lot of that together. It wasn't initially what brought us together, though. It worked
Mhm.
out that we both love to be active. So,
That's awesome.
Okay, so you mentioned that you were a type A, which that resonates a lot with me because I feel like that is like the hardest thing about my journey in life right now is that
yeah.
I have so many kids and my life has been so opposite than what I've ever planned it to be that it like feels like it's out of control all the time and like I have to like let go often. But I'm curious because you said your husband was a military, which is so type B. You have to be so type B in so many ways with that deployment and things like that. I don't know if he
Oh,
had
yeah.
deployment and
He
stuff.
did.
And
He
so
did.
yeah, like that takes a lot. And then just being a mom in general, it brings a type B out of you too, because there are like things you're navigating, like your kid back at home, your oldest, and, you know, trying to figure out that whole scene that you maybe necessarily didn't plan was going to be your future. Um, and so I'm curious, like, how has that like mindset of shifting from like type A to type B? Like, is there a time and a place where you feel like you can kind of lean more into one or the other as a mom and as a runner? Does running help you kind of like alleviate the things that maybe feel out of control as a mom day to day?
Yes, exactly. I do feel like that's a really good way to put it. Gosh, I went into motherhood just thinking that I could take that same energy into everything and that if I just did all these things, it would work out. Like, I mean, when I was thinking about some of this stuff, I was thinking, with my first we had for breastfeeding, like I fed on a schedule that was 8 11 2 5 8 11 2 5. I never have forgotten those numbers. It was religious. Like it was just the exact same thing every day. And I thought if I just kept that momentum going, and did all the things and lined up all the rows, that it would all work out. But then they start talking and walking and life changes and you have to go with the flow. Otherwise it breaks you. So I don't know that I've really navigated that beautifully, but I have tried to let go of some of that obsession with, a checklist and what how to do things perfectly. There's no perfection. Like I am a mess half the time, and that's okay. So I do feel like channeling some of that into running where I can hit this workout, I can do this pace, I can get that energy out in a way that's productive and that I can get my own feedback because motherhood, no one's walking around like, great job doing the dishes. Like, you just did that 55 times. Like, I get no prizes for that. Like, I would love a prize for that. I would win. I mean, you guys would be up there too, I'm sure. We're all doing it all day long. But yeah, I do think it's the healthiest way to get that energy out is just being able to run.
Yeah, I definitely think that's probably where you get to have a lot of that type A personality, right? Where you're like, okay, I may not be able to control what's inside my house, but I can control what
Yes.
I'm doing outside my
Yeah.
house for myself. And I love that for you. I love that you've been able to like cultivate like a hobby or something where you can pour into and feel like you get that like satisfaction from it. What so starting with your running history, where was your first race? What distance was it? What was it? And kind of like what is your current focus right now?
It's a lot of different places. Well, first race, 5Ks, 10Ks. I'm not going to count those. I think I fell in love with racing with the half marathon. The half marathon has always been my favorite. And I did that before I got pregnant. Yeah, I can't remember all the exact races, but there was one race that's really special to me here in New Braunfels that has been around since before I was pregnant. And it's interesting because I've lived in a lot of places, but we've lived in San Antonio twice in 4 different houses. So we've moved back and forth several times from overseas and then back here. Anyway, so this race, I did it before I had my son. And then after I had my son, 3 months postpartum, I ran that same race and had gotten a PR at the half. And then I had, some years of not being able to run, but that was always the race that I came back to and have done every October since I've got back into this, as being like my gauge for where I've been and where I'm going and how I kind of motivate myself to compete against myself. And yeah, and just kind of have a journey that I can look further back at because I don't have a ton of. I did this marathon 10 years ago. I don't have a lot of those stories, but I do have this one, and yeah, then I grew that into the marathon from there. But I do love the half.
That's amazing. When was your first marathon?
And so, well, forget my first marathon. I did one before we got married. So 12, no, okay. So I've been married 13 years. I have to do too much math. 14 years ago, weird. 14 years ago, I did a trail marathon.
Oh, wow.
So that was my first marathon experience, but I was trying to think, like, did I train? I mean, sort of. I did tons of 20-mile runs, but I just did them for fun. Like, I never had threshold workouts or other sprints. I ran pretty much the same pace all the time, like a standard beginner. Like, you don't really know different paces.
Mhm.
And I just love to run. So I was like, you know what? I need to check this off before I get married. This is important to me. I want to be able to do this. So I just signed up for a trail marathon in the woods and tripped over tree roots for 26 miles.
That's
But I
insane.
didn't have a watch and I didn't know. I mean, I got third, I think, in my age group or whatever, which was cool, but I don't remember the time. There's no records anymore of this thing online. I've looked it up because I've been
Oh
trying to
my
compare,
goodness.
but no, this thing just disappeared. So I don't know what time I had. I think it was like 4.5 hours. So
Mhm.
totally different than like a road marathon anyway. You can't really compare. It's very different. Um, but first road marathon was Ogden, which I think you guys probably have different thoughts on if you like that one or not. I love Ogden. I thought it was awesome because it was like the view of the mountains, but not in the dirt. It was on the road.
That's a
So,
very good way to describe it.
so that
Stunning.
was
It's
my first road
gorgeous
marathon.
forest,
And
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, a trail marathon for your first one is pretty intense. It's
Yeah.
probably a good thing that you didn't have a whole lot of, like, idea, I guess, of what you were doing, especially
It
going
probably
out.
was better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't walk for a week after that. Yeah. I didn't know how to recover either. I was like, I guess I take a bath. Like, I'll just sit in the bathtub. I don't know. Like, but I
yeah,
was young enough that it was like you have a different resilience. You're not
totally.
aching on all the
Yeah.
places yet. So it was okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
What I'm curious because I'm always curious what brings people to Ogden. Uh, it's just an interesting town, but, and I say that from somebody that used to live in that area up there.
And see, yeah, you know more ins and outs. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. But I'm curious, like, what sparked Ogden on your, like, radar? And like, after you ran Ogden, I'm curious to hear, like, was it all of a sudden, like, this spark or this, like, curiosity of, like, wow, I just did a road marathon and I did a trail marathon and 2 polar opposite things. And then, obviously, you continue to run and race on the road as well, so I'm curious, like, was Ogden kind of like that starting point of, like, what else can I do?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. And it's not like I sought out, oh, this is exactly the race I want. I will say, like, I didn't pick running I didn't know I was going to run a marathon until 2 months before the marathon on that one. So I had started running in August, like rerunning. Okay, so like my new journey was like August 2023, of restarting and actually going to the gym and getting in miles. Started with like 25 miles a week and built it up to 50 by the time of Ogden, I think. But in there, I was mostly just focused on halves. And I was like, I'm just going to run. I'm going to run halves. I love halves. And somewhere in March, because Ogden's in May, I was like, you know what? I think I can do this. I think I can run a full. I mean, you just keep runners, we keep increasing that, if I can do this, I can do this. And I remember having that conversation with my mom and my husband, my two biggest supporters. And my mom was like, are you sure? Like, you don't want to get hurt again? Like, you don't want to flare these issues you've had and your hips and all the things. And I was like, let's just try. So we looked at the calendar and I planned this race around, this is kind of where I got the idea of starting Run Like a Woman, by the way. I originally was going to talk about like menstrual cycle and running with your cycle. Because I planned that race around the key week for me. And maybe that's why I loved this race so much. None of the others lined up with this and have been like pure hell in phase that I get for the race. But this one, no, I was like, I'm going to pick this like peak mid cycle. And this is the race that fell. And there was all these reviews like great first marathon downhill. I was like, I like the hills. I'll do that one. So we ended up in Ogden. And maybe it's because I didn't know what to expect, even though I was training with certain paces, but I really didn't know what time I would hit for that. So it really shocked me how well it went for me and how much I liked it. And I think it helped that I just ran it by feel and I watched my heart rate a little bit, but I didn't know a ton about heart rate training at that point. Uh, but yeah, I was able to just enjoy most of that race. And I talked to people I didn't do that in any of these other races. I couldn't have a conversation with anyone because I was dying. So I just really liked that race. It just worked out that it was a good experience, and that's why I liked it.
That's awesome, that makes sense. It does have really good reviews as far as, like,
It
good
does.
first race, and it's super scenic, and I can definitely see also people wanting to continuously go back to it 'cause when I was there, like, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is my 12th time doing it," you know? Yeah, that's awesome. That is really cool. Well, let's talk about your pregnancies. Did you run through them or I see here you ran through your first pregnancy, but did you run through all of them or what did that look like for you?
Ran through my first pregnancy. I feel like at that point, I was super confident, like, I'm going to be the mom that just says that I can do, like, just show everybody that you can run up until the day you give birth and do all these. I was doing spin classes and running on the trails. And with my husband, we were doing trails and road. I've always kind of been a mix of both. I ran up until the day I gave birth, and it was awesome. But after I gave birth, I had a very complicated birth, lot of, like, forceps and it was just very traumatic, and he stopped breathing. He had to go to ICU, or the NICU, and there's just a lot of changes that happened in my body afterwards that I really can't explain, and no doctors have been able to truly explain, for years. So my journey changed a little. I did keep running for a few months after that, and that's where I went back to that race. And I did get a PR in my half marathon after that, 3 months postpartum, because I had run. I was just practicing with my stroller. I don't know. I just kept running. They said, "Okay, you're clear to run again." I'm like, "All right, I'm ready. Like, I'll just push my stroller," and we just went up the hills every day. So I think that's why I PR'd that. It's just because I was pushing my son in a stroller every run that I did, and then I didn't have it, and it was great. I was just going. Um, but after that, in that next year, I had a lot of health things and pelvic floor prolapse and in every part that I've got, and so it was very humbling and a very rough few years after that with being able to run. And I felt like I lost myself a little bit with that because I didn't have that outlet, but it forced me to look inward and to really rely on other things to help me. During that time, I can't say that I was perfect in any of that. I really struggled with the not being able to run. But no, the other two pregnancies, we lived in Germany, so we lived overseas and I had both my girls there. Um, and then I had a surgery over there as well in between pregnancies. So that was interesting. It wasn't really planned to have the third one after the second one. So it was a fun surprise.
Oh my
I want to dive a little bit more into that, like, identity loss with your prolapse and everything, because I don't think there's a lot of discuss. I love that ignorance is bliss. I love that you had your first pregnancy and you were like, I'm gonna be a badass. I'm gonna go
Oh,
out there.
yeah.
I'm gonna show up. You know, I see a lot of first time moms, you probably do too, right now on social media, who are pregnant with their first kid, and they're like,
Hmm.
you can run, you can do this. And I'm like, not if you have multiple kids. Sometimes your second will bring something way different.
Yeah.
Because I spent a lot of my pregnancies not running through like I am right now. And being very transparent about that is so important, because I think a lot of people who are in a season where you were with probably your second and third, they're probably feeling that too right now as they're dealing with it. And it's a luck of a draw, I swear.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you may have an amazing pregnancy for your first, or you may have a awful one for your first, and your second's great, you know. And so you just never know what card you're going to be dished. But I want to talk about your prolapse. So when you got that diagnosis, what was that like, hearing that news and navigating through that season and the identity loss of having to step back? from running that, ultimately was kind of your mental health sanity, probably.
Yeah. I mean, hearing that for the first time, I didn't know. I mean, I feel like there's so much more discussion on this now, and with women and pelvic floor and all these things that really just weren't talked about when this happened for me. And I had to dig into stuff online, which gets you into all sorts of rabbit hole chat rooms with depressing people and like trying to figure out what this meant. And all the things never aren't perfectly like, oh, it's just this and these exact symptoms. It's a mix of all the things for you as an individual. So for me, it was a lot of things at once. But yeah, it was confusing. It was disheartening. I didn't get a lot of I bounced around between so many doctors too, and that's just kind of the situation we were in with the military is like I was a number, and I felt like that for a lot of years in being a military spouse because I was just a number on paper that they literally called and had to read my file and figure out, okay, she's dealing with this and this, let's recommend this. And then a lot of them would be saying, "Oh, I guess it's just you just don't need to run then, right? Like this must be caused from maybe you made that worse by running." Or I'm like, "I don't think that's it, but sure, like go ahead and add salt to the wound here." Like so I had to deal with a lot of ignorance from doctors for many, many years of that and try to figure out things for myself. I did all the, at-home strength training for your pelvic floor and all these different things to try to figure out what to do as I was losing that identity of feeling like, oh, this is where I fit. Like, this is what I do for fun. Like, it was a very hard time to navigate. Yeah, I feel like I wish there was more information out that I wasn't alone in that because I do think more people deal with things I have dealt with than talk about, which is why I have like really no shame in sharing. I will say the parts, I will say what it is. I have no shame in that. And I've been in way too many appointments and had to do way too many things to prove that that's what's happening, that I don't care. And I want to help people understand that it is normal. It can happen. And you don't know the cards you're going to be dealt with. We each have different bodies and we have different genetics and dispositions to things and births. You don't know what's going to happen in birth. Now, none of that is to be like, we should be fearful of any of those things either. But I feel like being on the other side and now having experienced the really, really hard and the comeback or coming to of my own journey, like you can, I just I wouldn't say there's one season for anyone. Like you're going to go through different seasons. It's going to look different and it's okay. Like it doesn't mean that your journey's over because this pregnancy it's not working. And it doesn't mean that you'll never run again. And maybe it does. I don't know, but it doesn't your life doesn't end there. And there's so much more hope on the other side of everything that you can just as long as you just stay in it and get through it. So
That's so true. I think also now with social media, there's just so much more out there. And even if somebody is uncomfortable with like saying terms, that they could technically share about it in a
yeah.
pretty hidden way, I suppose. But I went on my stories not that long ago because I mean, I get what people are saying when they're like, there doesn't have to be female strength workouts. But I also think to take that whole idea away entirely is kind of crazy because at the end of the day, whether you want kids or not, having information about your pelvic floor
Yeah.
is super, super important because even as you get older, incontinence and all that stuff still can happen. And that's due to a pelvic floor that you have because you have a bladder and because you're a woman. Like, I think it's super important for people to stay informed about that. And anyway, I just like gone on my stories. I cannot tell you how many people were like, "Oh yeah, I had a stage 1 prolapse, a stage 2
Yeah.
prolapse." Like, my goodness, this is way more common than could have ever imagined. And
Yeah.
a lot of people were told it's because of their running during pregnancy. Obviously I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how much of that would be true. also be because there's no preventative measures or because you're just the unknown, especially during your first pregnancy. There's so much unknown. Like,
Yeah.
nobody said the word pelvic floor to me, not once.
Mm-mm.
Like, they say it during a yoga class when I'm not pregnant, but never pregnant.
Exactly.
And they were like, "Hey, do something about this," you know? And yeah, so it's just super interesting that you like, especially for you, just that your aftercare or your care during it was so almost all over the place. Do you feel like they tried to blame your running for it?
A few of them definitely. I mean, that wasn't the conversation everywhere, but it was never,
Mhm,
like, advised that I should pick up my hobby again, like, that was just never something that any of them
mhm,
said. And yeah, I think it's the lack of, just education on that topic, and for females and women and our healthcare in general, a lot of these doctors are men, and that's
mhm,
not to say that they aren't very smart and good at what they do, but our bodies are completely different.
mhm,
And there are a lot of unknowns, I think, even still being researched, and I just think it's important for all of us to do the research to figure out what's going on with ourselves, and it may not fit a textbook exactly either. I mean, we're just so unique,
mhm,
and I don't think anything comes down to one thing ruining it for you or that you've done I just no one I don't want anybody to feel like they've done something that messed them up. Like, it's not your fault that something happens like that. It's bad genetics. It's just an unfortunate thing. It's childbirth, but your body, if you're pregnant and and you gave birth, it did something amazing. And at the end of the day, we have to remember that our bodies did that. Like, that's incredible. So I guess they suffered a little bit on the other side, but we can fix it and we can work at it and figure out what to do next. But we're not doomed, and we don't need men in healthcare telling us that we are. We need people that are just like, "Hey, this is going on. Let's work on this. Here's what you can do."
mhm.
But this fear driven, "Oh no, this is happening to me. There's no answer. There's no hope." That we've got to get rid of that narrative in women's health. It has to go away.
So true.
Well, and like prolapse, like it can be a burden on everyday activities, not even just running.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
we have a friend that's personally going through her own things right now regarding some of that, and I watch just everyday things like are it's a burden on, and so your everyday function of living is compromised by prolapse, and so I think it kind of falls on deaf ears when a doctor is like, "Well, just don't run anymore." It's like, "Okay, but what about all the other stuff I do during the day?
Yeah.
Pick my kid up or go bounce on a trampoline or, just like little normal, very, very normal common living things that you can't possibly or it can cause issues with, right? The quality of your life."
It's quality of life,
Yeah,
yes. That's a
and
good way
so
to say that.
I that just, like that breaks my heart that that's kind of what you had to navigate, but then I think about back then, like, your oldest is 12, right? I think is what you said?
Almost 12, yeah.
Almost 12, and so back then, I mean, I've never heard about strength training, like, I was
Mm-mm.
back then, it was like, women need to be like, thin and skinny, and here's how
Yes.
you have this diet, don't eat carbs because they're not good for you, but, like, what about all the endurance athletes that are out there, in and outside of
Exactly.
running, like, carbs are a huge I mean, everyday function with carbs is a good thing too, for hormonal regulation and things like that. And so I think back when I had my first kid and the stuff that I was told, lifting weights was not one of those things that I was
I
ever
know.
told ever, ever in my healthcare. And I look back now and where I'm at right now, and it's like it's heavily addressed that lifting weights, particularly weights that are heavier, can help your body be able to function well after pregnancy. Whereas back then it was kind of like a no-no. um, and so
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't I
Doctors told me not to lift weights at all.
yes, yeah, and
Mhm.
they're like,
Wow, really? Oh my
"Yeah."
With the when I had the issues announced,
Yes.
like, when that
Oh,
was on
I
paper, they're
bet.
like, "Oh, you shouldn't be lifting at all."
You
Like,
know
I
what's
have
wild?
children.
It's so crazy about that, like, if I'm telling you, if a man sneezed and his urethra was to pop out or whatever, And they were like, "Hey, men, you have a pelvic floor as well." It would be the most heavily researched thing ever. Like, that's what's so wild. It would be like, "Okay, you've got to strength train. These are the exercises that you have." It would be nationally funded, and that's what's so crazy. So it's like, it's
Yeah.
very important to continue to talk about it, and that there are so many misconceptions about it, because I'm sure that it was so much easier for them to just say like, "Well, just don't do anything and it should fall back into place," you know?
One doctor told me that, yeah, it would be better if we weren't working with gravity, right? Like if you were just upside down. I'm not kidding you. That's
That, like, doesn't
conversation.
surprise me. I bet they were like, "Do you do headstands
Do you do,
ever?"
yeah, exactly. Do you do handstands? Yeah. Just sure, I'll
Yeah.
just walk around upside down. That's how I'll survive.
Yeah.
Like
Like, I'm just
I
gonna go
just
live in
yeah.
space. I'm gonna go live on the moon. Just go ship me up there with everybody else who has
There's
prolapse.
no prolapses in space.
Yeah.
I did do a lot of handstands after that. I'm not gonna lie. I
Did
did.
you?
I bet. You're probably desperate just to
Sometimes
be able
it
to
does
do more.
help a little. I mean,
Yeah. Oh my
but I
gosh.
will say, just to give everyone hope, if anybody's dealing with this, I can now jump on the trampoline with my
I love
children
that.
and I can run and jump. Are we ever perfectly the same after having kids? No.
Yeah.
And all the things and all the surgeries I've had, but there is hope on the other side. And it's with the education of looking things up and figuring it out and not being scared of our own bodies that we can heal from that. So.
I don't know how comfortable you are talking about like what that journey kind of looked like. I know it's probably a lengthy one, but maybe just like a summary base of like what did help your prolapse? Like what did you have to navigate through to kind of get to the point where you're at now, where I think you said 2023 is when you really started getting back into the running scene again and putting
Mhm.
yourself back out there. So that sounds like it's post kids. And you had 2 more kids after the prolapse too, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm very curious to hear kind of what that looked like for you.
It's a lot of that's a long story.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first I mean, it was a very slow beginning of, like, getting those diagnoses, and figuring things out. So for me, it was my bladder, my uterus, my rectum, like, I had everything falling out. So and weak but for me, it's different. Prolapse, everybody thinks weak pelvic floor. But for me, I learned I was more hypertonic, like, I was trying so hard to keep it strong that it was like if you were constantly doing, like, weights with dumbbells and you were overstraining the muscle, it couldn't relax anymore. So, I didn't learn that for years. Makes complete sense. I try so hard, and it just doesn't work anymore because I tried so hard. But, yeah, so for that journey, it was figuring out all these things and how to I did a lot of online strength things. None of them really worked. In the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. After some of the doctor discussions, I didn't have a ton of hope in what they were saying because they weren't really offering me a lot of solutions. It was me trying to figure it out, just getting them to identify things for me. But I did end up deciding to do a surgery in Germany. A little traumatic. I do carry a lot of PTSD from some of that because it was in another language. Literally, they drew me a picture of what they were going to do. So I'm terrified even I'm remembering that. Like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to trust that this is what you're fixing based on your picture. So they did speak English too, but it was just these are already like words when they're using the actual sacrocolpopexy. Like there's all these fancy words for this stuff. So it's already another language itself. And then they're drawing a picture and speaking in German. So I did some of that repair in Germany after my second baby, and it was like a year postpartum. So I had to wean her just to have that surgery. So it was like hormonal madness, trying to do that to coordinate getting the surgery done. And then I woke up and it was a little different than the picture. So they did a little bit different. Years later, I have had other doctors confirm they did a great repair. So they like lifted I had like a uterine suspension, if you will. But they actually did probably a better job than some people would do in America because we use a lot of mesh and things here, and I didn't want that. But I got pregnant 1 month later after that surgery. on accident because I think because I weaned. Anyway, so that was a big my poor pelvic floor. It was rough. I was asking it to heal, and then I was trying to do all these trainings and things to help it, and then I figured out I was pregnant, and then I had the weirdest, most complicated pregnancy for my third. Like it kind of, not to overshare. I don't know. I do overshare sometimes, but it blocked my bladder for a little bit. My uterus like went in front of my bladder. I couldn't pee. Like I literally had to self-cath myself for a month and a half because it blocked it completely. No one could explain that. No, they told me to do some other yoga poses to get it out of it was weird. I'm not kidding. I've had a lot of interesting advice. One of them did help a little, but they were going to ship me back to the US to like move my uterus out of the way because the way, maybe from surgery holding it up more, it was not shifting correctly in the pelvis to rise so that the baby could grow. So somehow in something I did, it popped back up and it started, everything worked again. But no one could explain some of those traumatic things that happened in my third pregnancy. And then I gave birth and we moved forward from there. We moved back to the US. We moved back to the house we're in now. So we've been here like 7 years, 8 years. I don't know. It's been a while. But yeah, so I was able to get care here and start really learning and start trying to really trust myself. I think out of everything was just leading me to trust myself more than doctors and other people. Not that I didn't want good advice, but I needed to just listen to me. Even if I couldn't make sense of what was happening, I started really trusting my own body and moving in ways that worked. And I did yoga and some bar classes for like 2 years before I ever started running again, because that was just the first inkling of I want to move. I need to do more than I'm doing. And it was the first step that got me going again to start strengthening things. And I ended up having a surgery here for the rectal part, which I met the best surgeon I've ever had. She's actually a family friend now. Our kids go to school together, and she's actually cares about what she does and did a great, great job. And that helped me tremendously. And she was never like, oh, you'll never run again. She was like, oh, you're ready to, like, I told her, hey, I'm going to run 13 miles like in 2 months. Like, is that okay? She's like, if you want to. So, just having people that I found people that could support me um, as I was healing. So I did that. And then a year and a half after that, her husband, who's also an amazing surgeon, fixed my last problem. So I just had a family affair. I joke with them that like they've seen way too many parts of me and they can never think of me like that when they look at me and have conversations now.
I was just gonna say you like have you're like, and you do surgery on what? Okay. I will
Exactly. But there was all these other options, but I was like, you know what? Your husband does this. You guys are a great family, and they're good. They're good at what they do. So,
that's great.
yeah. Surgery is not the healing answer for everything, but it was part of my journey, as well as doing the strength work and trying to figure that out. I won't say there's one right answer. I don't have a particular website to recommend that anybody goes to because it's just figuring out what works. I did go to a pelvic floor therapist here, though. I tried a lot of those, and there's some wackadoodles in that field too. But this one was super healing for me because she had actually lived in Germany at the same time I did, went to the same therapist that I did, and she became a pelvic floor therapist because of it, because it was so horrendous, the things that she went through. And she's like, I want to help women, and I'm going to become this to help other women to be able to have control over their pelvic floor and to relax and to know that they're not broken. And anyway, it was like this most amazing experience for me here, meeting her, and realizing we had a shared experience. So that was really cool. That was part of the journey too. It's been a long one. There's a lot of things. So if anybody is struggling with that, you want to reach out, I might have some thoughts on it, but it's a long story.
That's amazing, though. It sounds like there's just been a lot of self-advocacy that's had to happen for you.
Yes, that's been the biggest thing, is like learning to have a voice for myself, which is scary. I mean, I always say, like, I'm not smarter than the doctors. Like, you went to school for this. I would like to trust you, but at the end of the day, this is my body. And I know what's, it may not make sense to you, but I know what's happening. So I've learned to adapt around my body and how I feel and all of that. Even though I still have some struggles with things, it works a lot better that way now, just knowing myself.
Yeah. That's I can't even like comprehend, like nobody signs up for a pregnancy and thinks that that's going to be their outcome, right? Like especially after your first, I feel like you hear like a lot of the positives of like then you get to snuggle the baby and then your body goes through a healing process, just very very generic by the book type answers. But hardly do you ever hear about the possibility of your life being flipped upside down, like,
Yeah.
and you went on this whole journey of trying to figure it out for it sounds like quite a few years. And now you're on the other end of it all. I guess like what are some like hopeful words, I guess, you can give to some women that may be in that process right now that are in prolapse? I love that you talked about advocating for yourself. That is obviously a very great tip and piece of advice to give to women that, hey, you don't have to settle for a life that's uncomfortable or where you have to sacrifice your well-being. That you should advocate for yourself, because I think that's something that us as women, we have a lot of guilt around. I think it could be for several reasons, whether it's investing in yourself, whether it's financially, just all the above. It can feel very daunting road to navigate down. And so you think, well, I have this going on, so I'm just going to live with it,
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you didn't, because look where you're at now. And I know that everything's not perfect, but it's definitely come a long way because of your advocacy. But yeah, is there any like piece of advice that you would want to share with somebody that's maybe currently in the process or feeling like everything just feels daunting right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is like that it won't last forever. That whatever feeling of like heaviness or sadness that you're having, it's not going to last forever, and you will figure it out. And it may take time. It doesn't. It may not be an easy road, but you can advocate for yourself, like we're saying. You can just speak up and say what's actually happening. Keep a log of things that are happening so you can explain it when you go in the room. I know that I forget half the things I want to say when I actually go into an appointment. I'm like, why am I even here? I'm great. Like, why am I here? So make a list. Do some of those very simple things that you can do to share what's going on. But really just don't don't think you're going to stay in that place forever. Like there is hope. This is not a death sentence. You're not broken. A lot of people have gone through this or have been on the journey. Like I've met so many people since sharing that with others in my life, and like even grandparents and different older generations of people are like, oh, I've lived with that, whatever. Like they didn't get the help on some of it, and they've lived with it because they didn't know that they could share and go try to change it. So, you don't have to stay where you're at. You can just like anything, you got a broken ankle, no one's gonna be like, "Oh, it's gonna be broken forever." Why do we treat women like that? I I don't know. You're not broken. You're just in a different season, and you can come out on the other side, and you have no idea where you might end up.
What has 2023, now we're on the flip side of the prolapse and the surgeries and figuring all that out and the time kind of away from the running scene. You came back 2023 and now we're in 2026, which sparks your
Crazy.
current accomplishments of what you've been able to fulfill already this year, which is so inspiring. I think it just brings a full circle to your story and a hope to your message, because even though you had a lot of that heaviness that you had to work through, you are like killing it right now in your
Oh, thank
running, and as a mom. But I want to hear a little bit about like, so 2023, you came back in, you ran that race. You were 2 months postpartum, you said, for that half marathon?
Not in 2023,
Oh,
but you mean
before
like,
that.
yeah, and the comeback, yeah, 2 months,
Yeah.
after the surgery. Yes, my
Yeah.
last surgery that I've had was 2 months before that, and I don't know, it felt like a newness was starting.
Yeah.
I mentioned like having dreams where I feel like God was telling me like you're going to run again, and I would wake
That's
up
so
like
cool.
sweating and almost like with adrenaline, like I was racing in my dreams, and I was like, man, I'm sad that was not real. Um and I was still running here and there, like all these years of all the diagnosis between surgeries, I was running here and there, but it was never much. It was just enough for my sanity to try to play with this. But yeah, I was having these like stirring feelings that I wanted to do this again and it was going to look different. And I didn't know what that meant. But I had even told a friend at the time that we were kind of going down some different paths with our passions and things. And I told her, maybe I'm going to go back to the gym in August. I'm going to start training and maybe I'll reach out to like a mom running group or a women's running group and make some friends there. And I did that within like 6 months. I started running and trying to do my own training. And I found one of the local run groups. And I was like, I didn't know this was a thing. Other people here like to run. I don't know why I'm so surprised, but like I wasn't on social media talking about this
Yeah.
for any of those years. And it's like other people like what I like. And it was so cool. So yeah, I went to some of these meetups and it, I don't know, it never really worked on pace is very hard to like find people you can just run with. You guys know that. Just that, so it was hard for me to figure out I was trying to figure out my own pace, my own workouts, and then run with other people. But I was also trying to make friends in a new world. So I feel like I kind of recreated everything I wanted in 2023 to 2024. It was like just a lot of new opportunities for me. Trying to figure out where I fit in and kind of coming to grips with like, I can do other things now. I can chase this. My body isn't breaking. And it was a slow process to realize that, like, that I could slowly start running. I could get to more miles. I did that half again, that same October one. And I I think it was the same time. I got that the same time I did before, like the 12 years before that or whatever the math is at this point. And then ever since that race of being in it, I was like, okay, I'll just compete against myself. I'll start working on this time and try to get it down. And a couple months later, I had beaten it, and I was like, well, I can do more than this. Like, what the heck? Like, I thought I was
Yeah.
going to be working on that for a while. And suddenly you go from thinking you're broken to I'm better than I've ever been. And what else can I do? And so to me, that's just been the whole fun in all of this is just figuring out like, what can I do and how can I let that confidence come into me and come into other areas of my life, like as a parent? Because I don't feel like a confident mom half the time. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm always feeling humbled and broken and lost
Yeah.
and doing my best. But I mean, we're all figuring it out as we go, right? So I feel like it's just given me this ability to find a new me, but really the same me that I've always had, just being able to bring it back out and to have fun with it and to bring that into my life at home. And I know that I'm a better spouse and a better mom for it. They can attest. I did not run today, so I'm a little crankier. Like it's not the same. So yeah, it's been a really cool journey.
That's incredible. So you did Ogden Marathon and then you qualified for Boston. That must have been such an incredible moment after everything that you had been through. And what did that feel like when you crossed the finish line and saw what you'd done?
I mean, shock. It was so fun, but so hard. Wanted to cry, wanted to smile, all the feelings hit you at once. And I don't know, like I felt a little guilty too, I'm not gonna lie, because I feel like the people I was around, there was people that have been trying to qualify for Boston for years. And I didn't have that same story. Like I've got a lot of hard in my story, but that wasn't something that I mean, 2 months before, as I signed up, I was Googling, how do you qualify for Boston? I didn't really know anything about that. Like, I'm not kidding. I knew it was a thing and I had watched people do it, but I was like, it's never been on my list. Like, I love running, but Boston was just never on my list of things. Um, I thought I'd be chasing that goal for a lot longer. I just really didn't realize that I could do that. But then I remember I was celebrating that. I was super excited. And then someone was like, okay, so this was your time. I bet you're going for sub 3 next. And I was like, well, I wasn't. But that does sound possible. I'm not gonna, that is literally where the idea came from, because someone was like, well, if you got 312, what's not, you could get sub 3. Like, that's a lot of minutes. Okay. That's a lot of minutes. But yeah, that became the new goal after that. Even into Boston, I did try to get that at Boston. That was a hard course for that. But Boston was magical. I'm not, just because I didn't have this like, oh, Boston, it's amazing, I have to do this. Like, it was really cool. It was a great experience. I like the city in general. We had taken our son there just for a trip 2 years prior, just because he goes through obsessions of different things. He was obsessed with Boston one year. So we went to Boston, and it was just as miraculous for the run as it was when we were there with him. It was a really cool city. So the whole experience was really amazing. It just wasn't this like, I'm done. I was like, this is only marathon number 2. I'm not done. Like, this isn't the peak. It was just a race that was really cool. So,
Yeah, I love that. That's incredible. So Boston was your second marathon.
second road marathon. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
road
count it like that.
marathon.
Yeah.
First that trail marathon. It's been wiped.
I don't know. I don't know if I count it or not. It's there. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. That's so incredible.
So what was your next marathon after Boston then? Kind of giving us a timeline.
Houston. So
So
this
you're
last one that
racing.
I just did was the third road marathon. So I had a big gap in there. I'm really not, I don't know, the marathon itself, since I've been trying to shave off so many minutes each time,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to be the person that runs 3
No.
to 5 a year. That's not me. And also, this is a lot on my body.
Mhm.
I'm trying to be smart. I'm trying to recover well. So I had a lot of I've done hundreds of races around San Antonio and like Houston and stuff, like just lots of little stuff in these years, just not the marathon. The marathon, I've, let it be very specific and goal oriented to like shave off those times on each one. So
Honestly,
yeah,
that's
this one's
that's
there.
refreshing to hear you say that, because I think on social media we see opposite, right? We see people out there doing 3 to 5 marathons a year. Albeit it's not people that are typically moms. It's usually
True.
20-year-olds that are single, or they're married and they have a lot of flexibility but no kids, responsibilities, or anything like that. So it's a totally different life. But I love that you show that, like, hey, the marathon's kind of like a sacred distance. It takes a lot of time and commitment, you as a mom, especially juggling kids, your husband's schedule, this business, things like that.
Hmm.
And it does require a lot from your body. I mean, clearly the pros don't run 3 to 5 marathons a year. When they're not
I
having a
mean, that's
PR day,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not having a
Honestly,
PR
a
day.
lot of this journey. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that they even show that, like, if they're not in PR shape for that day, they're stepping off that course at mile 15, and they're going to attempt it again in maybe 2 to 3 months, do a little bit of a build up for it, and then maybe they'll go for it the full distance and see what happens. And sometimes they just do one a year. And anyways, I think that's very, very refreshing for you to say that. So for any moms too that are listening, if the marathon's not your scene, not your distance, like, she ran a lot of halves, like, you ran a lot of 10Ks, you ran a lot of 5Ks, you ran a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
different distances, and you even ran the trail scene, which is probably kind of nice to mix it up, because trail is more technical versus like pace specific. And so you're doing a lot of just like, you can't compare. You really can't. You could take that first marathon and that first trail marathon, and it's two totally different ballparks, because you got elevation and technical terrain and
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that
That's
you
different.
don't experience on the road. But I love that. So going into your Houston, you're a very humble person, because I could tell you don't mention your times very often, but I'm going to pull that out of you, because I want people to understand just how far you've come. We know this like rough patch that you went through with your prolapse. You fought tooth and nail to get to where you are right now. And I think just highlighting the fact that, like, yeah, maybe you qualify for Boston quick, but you had your fair share of hardships elsewhere, okay? So take
It's
your
true.
win. And I think people need to understand, like, when they go into people's stories and they're seeing you qualify for Boston quick, they're not seeing the prolapse season that you had to endure. They're not seeing the fighting and the moments of depression and things like that that you had
Yeah.
to pull yourself out of to even get back on the road and compete where you're at right now. And so I'm just so happy that you're having this highlight moment in your life, because holy crap, I think I would have gave up like a long time ago. If I were you, I'd be like, I'm just meant to have things fall out of me. Like, I don't know what to do because I'm too cheap to go figure it out. Um,
You
but
wouldn't have given up.
I
You
don't
would have
know.
stuck
I
it out.
don't know. But anyways, I want to talk about your Houston race, because I remember following that and seeing that on your social media, and it was such a huge day for you. So going into Houston, I want to hear a little bit about your build up for Houston, and your mindset of going into that race, where you were kind of like thinking, was that sub 3 on your radar, and the outcome of that day.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, like I said, I'm not doing a ton of marathons a year. So I had decided last June that I was going to do Houston, and I have family. My mom lives in Houston. So this is also a big deal because I can stay there and not have to travel, and do the whole hotel thing. So that was a big deal. And it's flat, and I live in the hill country. So I'm always training in altitude and hill altitude. It's not really, but like it's a lot different than Houston. So I thought this is going to be a great race for me. That's where I'll go for sub 3. I feel that. I know that's going to happen. And I said that 7 months out. So I did a lot of base work is my favorite work. I'm not going to lie. I really dislike speed. I do. I will say that and admit it. I don't like to do hard workouts, but I do them. Doesn't mean you skip them. I just don't like them. So I did a ton of base work. We travel every summer in our RV with our kids, and we go to like Wyoming and Colorado and different Montana, different places like that. And so we did some altitude training there last summer. I mean, we're there, might as well just run there. So that was helpful. And I treated the build up very specifically. Like I coached myself in it, and so I made my own training plans to where I could break it up with base training and then working on some speed for short distances, like the 1 mile, like the 5K, and the 10K. And then I had a half goal mid fall that I wanted to hit before going into the actual marathon block, at the end of October, November. So I feel like a lot of people go into the marathon, they're like, we just need 12 to 18 weeks and then nothing else, and it's specific. But there's so many months of just like good work to put in before, which is why it's so time consuming to do it correctly, to have enough base. And especially if you're trying to break big times for yourself. Like I, in Boston, got a 3:03:58. So I needed to shave off at least 4 minutes, if not more. And I decided to write 2:55 on my goal sheet. So of course I want to go bigger, because I figured I have time. I can do that. I just go do more. So I worked on a lot of that through the fall. Did the 10Ks, and I had a lot of different struggles in the fall happen with health. Even though, yeah, it's not the same stuff I had before, but I still deal with tummy issues and things like that. And I was in the ER like 4 times in September. Having to deal with some of that, and I got back on the horse, kept showing up. And it was really helpful, I think, to me, honestly, to have that goal in the future, just because it kept me grounded in all the challenges that we had in the fall. And I don't know what it is about like the fall. We just have a lot of stuff happen in like September every year. And I don't know why, but it's just a hard month. I don't know. So we had a lot of that going on. But yeah, I had the half that I had planned didn't go perfectly, but it was a good workout. I don't know why I thought I could PR it on all the hills that there were at this half, but I tried. Um, I was building a lot of confidence though, even though things weren't necessarily showing up on everything I was doing. There was a lot of small like belief building that I was doing that kind of showed me like I think this is still possible. I'm on track for that. And I really don't think there was a big shift until November, honestly, with Thanksgiving and I did a 10K after really thinking, and I feel like you had sent me a message because I had posted something like, I'm just want to give up, like nothing is working. I feel defeated, and I was starting to get pains in my hip again. And you were like, why don't you just take a week to decompress and like do less mileage and eat more? And I was like, that's exactly what I do need. And so I did that. I already knew I needed to do it. It does help to have other people telling me to do that too. I appreciate it. My husband's always like, why don't you just stop running for a few days? And I was like, that's why. Like, that's silly. But it did help. My morale, I needed a morale boost. And some of it just naturally was just a shift in attitude for me. And Thanksgiving, the turkey dash, which, everybody runs for fun, but I'm out there like, I'm going to kick some ass. Like, so I had a lot of fun. That was honestly the best race I've ever ran, like just strategically, because I've never had so much energy in closing like the final miles of any races that I've done. So just a shout out that you don't have to run a marathon to do like 10Ks are freaking hard, and you can, man, there's just so many other distances that you can do and enjoy and do well, and they are just as equally hard. So that was a big confidence booster for me, though, because it really gave me the numbers I needed to say, like, if I can do this speed at the equivalency of like my marathon effort, I can do the goal that I'm saying and go for 255. So that was my ultimate goal for Houston. And it was a long buildup. It was starting to drag on. I mean, I had thought of that goal for a little too long. I'm not gonna lie. It was going too long. I needed to just rip the Band-Aid off and do it. And like I said, I feel like these races, kind of why I want to go back to signing up 2 months in advance, is because they're just falling on really crappy days for me. So it was like cycle day 28. Yay. Like, this is going to be awesome. And I'm all for like, I'll run on my period, but this is like before. And I have heavy fatigue and I just don't want to do anything. And I knew that was going to hit me. So it was like, control the controllables, do everything else. You've done the work, and just see what happens. So by the time I got there, I really wasn't as confident just because I wasn't feeling it. But I knew I'd done the work and I just have to show up and do it the best that I've trained for, just like any race. Um, and yeah, I mean, just showing up and starting, I didn't enjoy that race very much. I love the journey of the marathon, but I just didn't enjoy that race. It was not fun during the whole thing. Like, I just didn't have that much fun. But I was able to stay in it, and execute the plan that I had. Didn't exactly get my 255, but that's its own story. Following the pacers, I wasn't even trying to follow them, but I was trying to gauge where they were at. There was two of them. 255 was behind me and in front of me. I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, can't be right. Like, I don't understand who's correct. But yeah, it was a lot of mind games, and it was a lot of reminding myself all of the things that I practice saying mentally to be strong enough to have stayed in it, because I wanted to throw in the towel at like mile 7:16, maybe mile 1, but no, more like I had a panic attack at mile 16 and I cried, and I had Siri, I was like demanding that Siri text my mom and tell her I wasn't going to make it. Luckily, I don't know if it's luckily, I wasn't getting texts to go through. So I wasn't getting everybody's encouraging stuff, and I wasn't getting her response. So I really think I needed that. But at the same time, I probably didn't need anybody to give me the option to quit, because deep down, I knew I wasn't going to. I just wanted to. Um, and I don't know, maybe everyone has a blissful, I hear a lot of different stories on, well, maybe you were just running out of the zone you should have been in. And no, I just think you're supposed to have a miserable time a little bit, because if you're riding your absolute edge, which I was intending to do, and I did, then it's just hard. And you have to be okay being uncomfortable. And I think that my entire journey I have been okay being uncomfortable for a long time in life. And that really does help me with running. And in those moments in the marathon that I want to throw in the towel, it's like, no, I can stay in it. I can struggle longer. And I tell myself that a lot. Like, I can struggle longer than people. And that's not always great, but it does work for running. Um, and it does eventually end, and you cross the line, and it's all normal again. So, a little bit of the day for you.
I love that so much. I love that you talk about how real, because people are seeing your PR. They're seeing you finally accomplish that big goal, right? That it's a huge goal that a lot of people are aiming for
Yeah.
in the recreational scene of running. And once you get it, you think like, oh my gosh, like how did she do it? They come with you with all these questions because they want to know how they can do it, right? And I love that you explained that it was not this like beautiful day where, the sun was shining on you and you felt amazing. And because I think more races than not are like that. I can
Yeah.
only count a very, very few that races where I felt that high, where I was like, oh my gosh, soaking in every mile. Most of my races are like, "Why the F am I doing this right now?" Why I mean, that was the exact words that came out of my mouth when I crossed that half marathon the other day. And I relate so hard to that, and I think you're exactly right. You read any of the books by the pros, and they talk about that. They talk about when they go for a world record or they go for an American record, it is grind. It feels uncomfortable very, very early on, and it should, because like you said, you're riding that edge of your best, and
Yeah.
it requires you to be at that line that's very uncomfortable. But I can't think to go back to how much, you're a valedictorian, you're 4.0 student, you were a high caliber athlete as a soccer player, you went through the prolapse series this season, you had 3 kids. Like, there's so much in your journey that shows that you have so much grit and determination and discipline to continue to show up and show up and show up, and I think that's what makes you such a beautiful and successful story of where you're at right now. It wasn't handed to you. I think a lot of times we hear the word, "Oh, genetically gifted," and very
Right.
talented, and I love that. I agree to an extent. You have to acknowledge that because everybody's top speed is gonna be different.
Yeah.
But you can only ride that so far, and it's very, very evident in your story just how much you had to navigate through and push through in and outside of running that has brought you where you're at today, and, I mean, even beyond your sub 3. And so it's so cool to hear that you stuck it through at mile 16 when you wanted to bounce out, because look where you're at. Like, you got to cross that finish line, you got to accomplish that goal. Even if it wasn't that 2:55 exactly, you still got to
Yeah.
accomplish that big goal, and it's just another opportunity or moment that you were able to prove to yourself that you are very gritty. And that's gonna carry you through another race, because you're gonna think about that Houston race where you wanted to quit and you didn't, and you still showed up and you crossed that finish line and you got your goal. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you. No, I do think, like, just literally the fact if you don't quit will get you so far. Um, and I feel like, yes, I have, like, a very interesting journey of all these things, but I think the biggest thing in all of it is I've always had the belief I can just do whatever I say I'm gonna do, and as delusional as that is, and you know what? I think we need some delusion, like, whatever, like, it works for me. If I want something bad enough, I can do it. And I've always carried that into what I'm trying to do, not in a cocky way. It's just like, if I want this, what's stopping me? I'm smart enough to look up training. I'm smart enough to figure it out. I'm gonna copy people that know what they're doing. Like, I've learned a lot of stuff from people on Instagram. Like, I have to filter a lot of things, but I learn from people around me that are doing good things. And I'm like, okay, if you're doing this, but it works better for me to do this, I'll just modify it like this and just figure it out. Like, and I do think if you can just figure it out and stick with it, that you can accomplish so much more than you ever thought you could. I mean, it sounds all fancy to say that and whatever cliche, but it's true. If you do what you say you're going to do, you show up, you do the work, and you don't quit, like, you're going to do something big.
I love that. I think that's such a great message for anybody who's listening and is maybe in a phase or in a season similar to what you have gone through and had gone through, and that, rebuild is there. It's just that you have to be patient, and like I think you were really patient with everything, and I think that's a huge key to how you got to where you are now is just being patient, advocating for yourself and being aware and just never letting the dream or the fire die. And I think that's so important because I think like we joke about it right now, like, yeah, I wouldn't have continued to do it, but like you don't want to think that about yourself, that you ever actually would give up on the thing that you love so, so much. But if you look back in the last couple of years or since all of this has happened, like what is the one thing or are there a few things that you're most proud of?
I mean, yeah, just the consistently not giving up is a big deal. And I'll make like a mental health plug for this. Like I feel like there's been a lot of lows in my journey and that you don't see that on social media. And again, I wasn't having these conversations, in some of the darkest moments that I had with some of these struggles. I wasn't that transparent with the running journey and all that with everyone back then, but I feel like there's just so many people are going through something all the time. I mean, we're all dealing with life and life is hard. And the biggest thing just being that to not give up in those moments that feel like everything is over and everything is ending and it doesn't there the season will change. Like I said before, like the season will change and there are people that I hope that you have to pull you out of that. And I try to be that for other people. Like if, I one of the biggest things for running for me is my mental health and it is strengthening that part of myself. And I want other people to be able to have that too. It doesn't, I mean, PRs and all this stuff, this is great. That's the fun part, but like that's not everything. Like just chasing what works in this journey for you and chasing your own goals. I don't know, like the goal for me is to be the person that believes that I can do it and that shows up and does it and stays in it. Even if I don't get exactly what I wanted, if I tried and gave it my best, like I'm proud of myself for that. So I am. I'm proud that I stuck with this thing that was almost like learning something new because I'm doing this in a whole new way than I've ever done before. Um, and actually, I mean, it's not all just running for fun now. It's fun, but it's, I'm being strategic and I'm trying to do it correctly and to recover and to ride my edge. And that's hard. That's a lot of things to combine into one picture. And yeah, I'm happy that I have made it this far and with a good attitude most days. There are still some low days, but it's like the belief that like it's okay though. It's okay to have bad days. Like we all are gonna are gonna suck, days are gonna suck. It may not be great weather, whatever. Just show up anyway. Do it anyway. You'll feel better.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Like I think that's a beautiful way to end this whole thing. Is that your attitude is everything through the highs and lows of life. And if you remember that it isn't the end all be all moment, there is life on the other side of a hard season. I think
Yeah.
it gets a little bit maybe not necessarily easier, but a little bit more bearable to get through,
Just yeah.
knowing that there is gonna be a little bit of light on the other end of it. Um, but thank you so much. I feel so inspired by you. I'm obviously in a season where I can't chase goals personally, like PRs right now, but just hearing you just be so proud of yourself in so many different seasons of life, even outside of your PRs, but like showing up consistently and just making the most of what you're dished is a humbling reminder for me. Whereas I'm just going to continue to get more and more pregnant, and those paces are going to get more and more miserable or slower. And I love hearing that. I love hearing that we can be proud of ourselves, even when it's not the exact goal that we were going for. Like there's so many things to learn in each lesson. So
Mhm. And we are so proud of you. It's been so
Thank
fun
you.
to watch you, and
Mhm.
yeah, just hearing the backstory and everything that you've been through. I think we hear so much about these amazing postpartum comebacks and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
I'm always like, I did not have that, and mine wasn't even half of what yours was, like I just couldn't figure out to eat enough and breastfeed and run at the same time. And I talk about it all the time, but because it's everybody's journey does look so different, and it can just be so easy to choose to be in the negative, because
Mhm.
once you're in the negative, like, people will join you there too.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
something that can fester, and
Mhm.
it's just something that if you feed it, it'll grow. And so having a good positive outlook really is everything. And obviously it's not always going to be like that. Like you said, there are
Right.
going to be bad negative days, but just that you're on the other side of this, and that it really wasn't that long ago that you were going through all of this, and now all the progress that you've made is just so inspiring. And yeah, it's fun to watch and root for you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mm.
You guys too. I love the journeys.
Well,
And the
Nicole,
pregnancy. You're still doing I mean, seriously, I don't care that you're not getting a PR right now. Most people are not running at this stage half marathons and marathons, so I'm impressed.
Oh, it's all so hard. It's whether you're running or not. Yeah, pregnancy is rough. I forget. It's been 3.5
I've
years.
forgotten. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, well, I feel like when you have a good little gap in there, you're like, "Oh, wait, I forgot why I had a little gap in there."
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
it's humbling. Keeps us humble.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that's listening. We appreciate, obviously, you listening, giving feedback on everything. Again, we love when you can send us any mom shout outs. We love those. And yeah, if you can share our podcast with another fellow mama, we really appreciate it. Of course, rate, subscribe, all the things. And yeah, thanks for listening. And thank you, Nicole. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.